It's been a good year for sci-fi. Windows is out, but are they ripping off Macintosh technology? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles makes the jump from comic book to boob tube, and Jerry Falwell took Larry Flynt and Hustler magazine to court. You gotta have faith. Faith. It's The Loop. Week in Review. My guest tonight here in Los Angeles, editor for Cinema Fantastique, it's Robert Sanchez. In San Francisco, editor for Byte magazine, the lovely Natalie Del Conte joins us. And also in the City of Angels, it's television's editor for Variety, Michael Schneider. Looking boss, Michael.
The future's so bright, I gotta wear shades.
Yeah, well, keep them on, buddy. I like it. This week's big movies, Throw Mama from the Train, Three Men and a Baby. Come on, they don't seem to be creating nearly as much excitement as some of the science fiction films that have done so well all year long. I mean, Michael, Predator came out, 6 months ago, but the public is still going crazy for this film.
Right, exactly. I think we're seeing a new breed of sci-fi. I mean, between that and RoboCop kicked ass. I mean, we really started to see this trend at the start of the 80s when, E.T. came out and blew everyone away. And since then, I think people have started to think of sci-fi in very different terms, much more in storytelling and character development and these kind of movies that we haven't seen before.
That's true. And it's interesting, Michael, you mentioned RoboCop there. Robert, I mean, do you think a film like RoboCop comes along? It's so... I mean, originally was an X. They had to re-edit it so that it got the R in theaters. I mean, is that really responsible for seeing the switch from the sort of sappy and soft core sci-fi films to the more hard R type films?
Well, it's obviously it's a new vision for science fiction. Obviously, we know that RoboCop it has its roots in comic books that we read today, like Iron Man and so on. It's definitely a new vision on science fiction, and even though we're talking about RoboCop and we're talking about Predator, let's not forget, Masters of the Universe just opened a couple months ago, and that was sweet.
Kevin, really, I'd have to say Short Circuit started the trend, by the way, with a character like Johnny Five sort of really changing the way people view these kind of movies.
That is true. Number 5 is alive, man. I dig it. Windows 2.0 came out a few months ago with quite a few new features, but some people with computers have been quick to point out that the look and feel of the Windows interface is actually strikingly similar to Apple's. Natalie, what do you think? Could a lawsuit actually be on the horizon here?
Well, I don't think so. I think they are very similar. I will admit that. But, the new Windows has some cool things. It's got something cool called Microsoft Word. There's also a new spreadsheet program called Microsoft Excel, which is so cool. So, I think there are some original things about Windows 2.0. And really, a lawsuit over operating systems, that'll never happen.
Well, it still makes the most sense as a word processor. So we have it at the newspaper that I work at. But at the same time, my parents have a Commodore 64. I'm fine with holding off. Now, a friend of mine actually had just subscribed to this new program called Prodigy, where actually he posts messages on the computer. I don't quite understand what's going on there, but it sounded kind of fun. I don't know.
I'll stick to SneakerNet and my pen and paper. Thank you very much. But as we mentioned earlier in the feed, the animated show based on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic series premiered today. Now, the comics, I mean, we all know them, we love them. They were violent, they were dark, they had an intense storyline. But the animated show, it's going in a totally different direction. Michael, is a potential cult franchise being destroyed here?
I think that's very possible. I mean, can you imagine now them ever actually doing a movie or sort of, really going beyond that? I mean, if they're going to go sort of this more kiddie direction, then, it's disappointing to see what they're doing with it right now.
Yeah, this is dead before it even started. This ain't going to go anywhere.
I like it.
But
I think
Natalie,
it's really positive.
What do you think about what Michael said, though? Are we just one step away from seeing Dolph Lundgren, playing a role in a Turtles film?
Would that be so bad?
Isn't he committed to future Rocky movies?
I think he is, actually.
I think we'll first see this guy, Bruce Willis, be an action hero or something before that happens,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Robert, for that much-needed clarity. Finally, let's move on to Jerry Falwell versus Hustler. This is an interesting one, or with Hustler. They were in court a few days ago about this parody that was being published. It was depicting Falwell having a drunken, incestuous encounter with his mother in an outhouse. I thought it was funny myself. But, I mean, Robert, we'll start with you. Just like Saturday Night Live and Mad Magazine, I mean, we see parodies like this all the time. Where do you draw the line, though?
Well, as a Christian myself, I feel kind of offended by what's written on Hustler. I never have seen or read one of these issues, but I find it offensive myself.
All right. Well, Michael, they say every parody has an element of truth behind it. Do you think there could be even just a little bit of truth to this one?
It's hard to say, but then again, we're starting to see some of these church scandals. So I wouldn't put it past anyone. I mean, but at the same time, we're also seeing, society change. I mean, look at Samantha Fox this year, for example. Her first claim to fame was posing nude. Now she's a big music star. I think, there's just a little more acceptance now of nudity in popular culture and pornography, and hopefully we'll continue to see that change.
I think it's the opposite. I think we're going to see people go back to their conservative roots in the next few years.
Interesting. Natalie, what's your take on, let's getting back to Hustler magazine. Do you think people are picking it up because of their love of the satire, or could they care less?
No, I don't think people are actually reading Hustler. I mean, but I think satire like this is the 80s. We're going to see more of that, and, public figures have to get a thicker skin.
All right. That was a decent discussion.
Wow.
Very decent. Thanks, guys. Once again, our guests joined us via TV signals that are literally being bounced across the world. Technology's awesome, man.
Attack of the Show, weeknights at 7, only on G4.